Plataforma de información musical y radio online. Rutas Alternas. Escucha.
Hace algunos años hemos tenido el gusto de seguir el trabajo de Jade Bird, quien visitó ya Guadalajara, visitó ya México, está lista para mostrar su segundo disco en estudio, ha tenido ya algunos adelantos y para hablar al respecto tenemos el gusto de enlazar en esta videollamada con Jade. Hola Jade.
Hola.
How are you?
I'm very, very good. Yeah, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Where are you right now?
I'm in Austin, Texas. Not too far from you. I could be further.
Yes, very close, very close. A few hours away on airplane, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Jade, have you moved from the UK to Texas in
I
these
have.
years? To Austin specific?
Yeah, I moved 3 months ago, late October. And I kind of, I made the move from England. It was pretty crazy, pretty wild. This is the first time I've ever moved out. I never went to university or college. So.
Oh, and how was the experience of living in the US?
It's pretty good. I mean, I'm a better chef than I was. I'm quite the little chef now. I've got a dog. Things have changed. Rock and roll.
I know because you are in a city with a lot of energy, a lot of vibe. I know that it's difficult now with the pandemic, but Austin has a very big history about live music, rock music.
Mm-hmm. Rock music is, I agree. I mean, I think St. Vincent came around here on one of her records, and I'm a huge fan of hers. And I was very into sort of outdoor country, kind of like Townes Van Zandt, Willie Nelson, and this is the birthplace of that. So, yeah, I feel like I'm in good company here.
And Jade, it's been crazy how many things have happened between your debut album and these singles. In between, you come to Mexico, you come to Guadalajara to play in Roxy Festival and Chango Voodoo in your own gig. How was your experience here in Mexico?
It was crazy. Yeah, I feel like what's even crazier is that before I went to Nashville, I had to quarantine in Mexico City, and I wrote half of my album in the apartment in Mexico City. And I think I was really inspired by this sort of this air there. And the street musicians that were playing, they were sort of trying to cheer everybody up, I think, from the pandemic. And they were sort of playing out on the street. And I remember just being in my little apartment and literally just writing every single day. And the songs that came out of it are my favorite. So Mexico and just South America in general has had such a great experience on my career. And I've just loved it every time.
I mentioned that not because it was great to see you live here in Mexico, but it's one example of what happens to you during these years, right? Between your debut album and now that you're recording. Crazy times, weird times. How was for you?
Yeah, it's been interesting. How's it been for me? I mean, it feels like I've lived a lifetime since we went a year ago. I feel so much older. I feel so much more mature in my music, in life, in way more empathetic. I feel like the health of my family, my friends, like it just set everything, it set the record straight, I think, into what matters. And I am excited to do music and to go back out on the road, but I am also very, very grateful that I got the time to just be and create and try and reset my values a little bit.
And what have you learned about the music industry that it's important to keep on going?
I think what I've learned, my partner always says it's like, there's this kind of photo that it's a miner, and on the other side is kind of diamonds, and it shows one miner sort of quitting and going away because he's dug so much. And I think there's an element of that, like perseverance. You've no idea how much you can get better from a first record to a second record. Like my second record is just so much better than my first, and I'm so glad I continue to work to get to that point.
In the history of music, the second album of an artist is very hard because a lot of people say that you have your lifetime to make your first album, but your second album it's a little tricky because a lot of things happens. You have these live gigs. You have to do some things that maybe there aren't in your radar when you make your first record. How are you handled with us with this?
It's interesting. My second record, I gave myself room to improve. So because I was so young doing my first record, I must have been 19 when it was finished. I think, 19, 20. So I think like you think about that amount of difference in life and how much you change from 20 to 23 or even 18 to 23, your whole world turns, it's like your whole perspective. And as a writer, that's so interesting for a second record. So I think in terms of giving myself room to grow, even production wise, I think the second record is just, for me, kind of blasted the myths of the difficult second record because I had so much room to grow and to breathe and to get better than on my first. It wasn't like my first was like such a smash out success. I could have never been it. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know. And it's also interesting that you decide to go to Nashville to make new music. It's also a very important music city, not only in the US, but in the world. And you can find a lot of vibe with alternative rock, with classic rock. And maybe you found these new sounds or these sounds for your new singles, right?
Well, it's interesting. Dave Cobb is quite a renowned producer in the country field. And I was very nervous because I was like, I don't want to make a country record. And what I didn't know is that Dave actually is a Britpop guy. So Dave was actually in a Britpop band when he was my age, is obsessed with British rock, from the Smiths to the Cocteau Twins to, you name it. He was sending us he was basically giving us the influences at that point. For example, we came in with a song called Honeymoon. We hadn't been able to record it successfully for, a whole year or two. It just never worked. And he was like, Iggy Pop, The Passenger. We were like, oh, okay. And it just clicked. And we played him no more than 2 bars from the middle eight. And he was like, Iggy Pop Passenger. And me and my partner just lost our minds. We were like, how did you do that?
I know it's interesting, the music story of Nashville, because exactly, it's not only country music, that there's a lot of venues, theaters. I mean, you can find all of that culture, but also there's a lot of new producers and new musicians that maybe mix a little about these two worlds, but they are making exciting new music.
Yeah, it's like Soccer Mommy is one. She's
Yes.
a American female act. There's, Hayley Williams is there now of Paramore. There's Cage the Elephant. Nashville really is branching out. And I feel like the thing I love about Austin is it's a little more like dirty. It's like a dirty Nashville, like, I don't know what, 12 hours away, but in a car, which is quite close, believe it or not, although that's not what it's like in Britain. So yeah, it's like you said, there's some rock in Nashville to be had yet.
And I found very interesting that you're not only moving to the US because of the music, but to find new stories to tell, to find new things that you want to express in your music. And as you said, that there are a lot of great artists in the UK, very, very big music movement. And why did you decide to take this distance?
I think it was money. I think London right now, prices are kind of skyrocketing and becoming almost very unlivable. And I say that because so many artist friends of mine, musician friends of mine are moving to Europe or, other places abroad because it's impossible to afford it. And so I think, I made the big leap to Austin because it worked out that like with the price of flights, it was almost the same price to come out here and the less for rent. So I was like, why didn't I just go be a cowboy for 5 years or whatever? You know what I mean? So
Yes.
it's crazy.
Yes, I know in the UK and in London, there's very exciting places, a lot of cultural vibe, a lot of infrastructure to new music, to new artists, but it's extremely expensive.
It's also, there's a scene in London at the minute that's it's like noise bands. So if you think of like Slint or Can, we're coming up with very interesting noise bands at the minute, like Shane, Black Midi, Black Country New Road, Squid.
Yeah.
There's these kind of crazy idols, there's these crazy rock bands at the minute in the UK, which is really, really interesting. But I think as a songwriter, maybe I wanted something a little quieter, maybe I wanted something I always find that going to places that are very alien to me really inspire me. Like when I came to Mexico City, it ignited something inside of me, because I was like, oh, I've never been here before, I'm free in my head.
Yes. And Jade, you recently made a streaming from the RCA studio in Nashville. It was great to see you live and to see you showing your new music, your new songs. It was important for you to make this streaming in the middle of the process of creating your new album?
Yeah, I think it was important because I wanted people to see the story. I wanted people to see that studio, which is so iconic, the people that have been there, and see the band and just how much I've grown and how much ambition we have for the second record. It was all tied in together. And so RCA just always feels like this huge milestone in my career. I think for me personally, being in that studio, me and my partner were just like, oh, we really have to up our games now. This is huge.
And do you have a date to the release of the album? What are your plans for this 2021?
So it'll be a summer release, late summer release, and then hopefully I'll be touring by at least July, August. I mean, even socially distanced as early as May. So I'm planning on getting back out there this year.
I think that the end of the summer and the fall will bring you good news about the live music, because there's festivals, important festivals like Outside Lands or Life is Beautiful, big festivals in the US that are keep on going, right?
Exactly. I've had my first vaccine today. So, I mean, hopefully the optimism will be continue.
Yeah, lucky you. And I hope that that's the light of the end of the tunnel, and we can have again live music, because we all miss that, and we need to have live music in our lives, right?
I totally agree. I mean, it's consoling. It's kind of brings you joy. It's release. I think it's just so important we kind of get out of our houses and feel that a little bit. I agree.
So Jade, you're gonna release a few singles before the album?
I am, yes. There's already been 3, and then I'll be releasing another one, I think, in probably about a month and a half.
Okay.
And then, probably that until the album, and then singles after it. And then you have the whole album. So, yeah.
I will follow you in social media to be very sure that we don't miss your singles. I have to tell you that I saw your shows here in Guadalajara. It was amazing to listen to you live. And I'm very, very pleased to listen to your new songs, because I found exactly what you're trying to say. With this new sound, with this new vibe, these new lyrics, very, very, very important. And looking forward to return you here to Guadalajara.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate your time, Gilberto. Thank you.
Jade Bird, thank you so much for this chat with Rutas Alternas.
Plataforma de información musical y radio online. Rutas Alternas. Escucha.